AO Broyles here with an abstract photography editing lesson using photopea.com. So, when we talk about abstract photography, with abstract photography, you can take the photo so that it is an abstract photo, meaning it's all about lines and shapes and colors and textures. Um, or or you can push that altered reality using editing techniques that I'm going to show you today. This video is for photopea.com rather than Photoshop. So those that do not have Photoshop access at home, you will be editing in photopea.com. So just to get you started, Photopea is a website that you should be familiar with by now. You just type in photopea.com. It takes you to the base editing editor. And if you notice, Photopea does have ads on the side. But what I do is I just pull the ads on my window over to the side and make my window a little bit bigger so I don't have to see the ads. Sorry, Photopea. So, uh, just as a review as well, you have a folder in your Google Drive called 2324 Photos for Class. In that folder, you have different projects that you have been doing for us. And so, like, I have a folder in here for my abstract photos because that's the project I'm working on now. I can even go back and use photos from my fall photos project. Maybe there's something in here that I think I can use, although I do want you taking new photos throughout the year. So if I need to, I'm going to download the photo to my computer, and then I'm going to pop to Photopea. I'm going to go to File, Open. I'm going to open that photo, and it will open in Photopea. Photopea is a lot like Photoshop. You've got your toolbar on the side here. When you change your options here, or change your tools, the options change up here. Over here on the side, you have your panels, your layers panel, which we'll use, adjustments, and a history panel up over here. There are some quick panels here on this little tiny menu. If you do not see your adjustments panel, which we will be using today, all of these are called windows. There's a menu up here called window, and you will go down and you will find adjustments because we will need the adjustments panel. You also need to make sure layers is open, but layers is usually open when you open Photopea. So just to lay the groundwork and the foundation for this, when we talk about abstract photography, like I said, colors, shapes, um, textures, and it's supposed to give the viewer like a nice emotion or feeling or kind of what is that? You're not supposed to see really what it was. Okay. So when we talk about abstract, there are four main types of categories that all art fits in, okay, or photography. So we've got number one, a landscape, a picture of land. Okay. Um, a landscape can be in landscape orientation. There are landscapes that are in portrait orientation as well. So don't get confused about landscape and portrait orientation, like turning things on its side or a tall image. That is different from the content. Okay, the content of this photo is a landscape. The content of this photo is a portrait. So portraits are pictures of people or animals. um, Portraits are the other category. Another category that art falls into is what we call still life, things that are inanimate, they don't move. Although this is a really beautiful still life of a bunch of perfume bottles that are very colorful, and there's lots of cool lines and reflections in this. This could be abstracted in a really cool way, but as it sits right now, this is a still life. Okay. So, landscape, portrait, still life, and abstract. Most all art will fall into one of those four categories. today we're focusing on abstract. The reason I'm showing you this is that sometimes you can start with a landscape and you can look and see like, ooh, look, this reflection's really cool. That has a lot of cool lines in it. I like this curve here. I like this texture. I like what's going on here. I might crop this down and use this to create an abstract photo, which is what I did. Okay. So, portraits, I could even abstract this if I grabbed the crop tool, which is the 1, 2, 3, fourth tool down. If I grab the crop tool, I could even abstract this, pull the corners down. I could abstract this photo into, I'm looking at colors and shapes and textures to like even like this little section here. Um, I could turn this into an abstract photo or painting even. So you can abstract a lot of different things. Be careful taking things super small from an image because the resolution might get a little too small, but I could even crop down this little part of that image, which actually is quite cool. But I am going to go with this image here. And I am going to use that piece of the image that I was thinking about. I'm going to crop it down where I want it. Maybe I'll put it in the center. I'm kind of focusing on this like O shape here. So I have this here. I can zoom up on it. So Command or Control plus or minus will zoom in and out on Photopea. I'm still on the crop tool. Want to get off the crop tool, maybe go up to just the pointer or the move tool and just call it good from there. All right. Now we're going to get into abstracting. Okay. Pushing the reality into something that doesn't look like realism or reality. We're going to use these adjustment layers here that we have practiced with before. We're going to start with the basic 3. Okay. So as review, the basic 3 starts with levels. Okay. Levels is this graph right here. I'm going to start with levels. Normally, we would just move the sliders over to where the mountain starts going up. This one's pretty good. It's exposed pretty well. So I wouldn't, if I was doing reality, I wouldn't really need to move these sliders at all. Potentially because I've already fixed this photo. But because we're altering reality, I can go and I can really push these levels to where they start abstracting the shapes and the colors and start giving me something else to work with. I do want to be careful about blowing out too many of my whites because I don't want to lose this texture in here. But I might just go and darken a whole bunch of this. Notice it is affecting the entire image, which is fine for right now. That's just kind of what I'm doing. I'll get into certain parts in just a minute. So levels is first. The second basic edit is curves. And again, with curves, normally we go into this top quadrant, pull up just a tad, bottom quadrant, pull down just a tad, and make a simple S curve. Okay, that's reality. Now we are playing with reality. That means you can put as many dots on this curve and you can start really playing with the contrast of the colors and what's happening here on this graph. So curves is a really cool way to start abstracting and playing with what you have going on here with the inversion of the darks and the lights and what that is doing to the reds, blues, and greens. That's kind of cool. All right. So again, not your normal curve, but it is affecting the whole image. Okay. After that, we usually go to vibrance and saturation. Okay. That's the last of your 3 basic edits. I'm going to pull the vibrance up, pull the saturation up because I just want a deeply saturated image, although that does look kind of cool too. But I'm going to play with some color today. You can do abstract in black and white. playing with shadows, and it'd be kind of cool too. All right, so those are your basic edits as a review. Now I'm going to go back through and I'm going to maybe try something different with, say, I'll go back to curves. All right, again, when I'm pulling up and down on the curves, right, I'm getting different things. If I like what's happening like down here, but I don't like what's happening up here, there's a way that I can say, I only want this effect to affect this area here. And how I do that is I'm on the layer. Okay, notice when I click on the different layers, the different properties pop up. Notice there's a difference between clicking on this little icon here in the layers panel and clicking on this white mask. Okay, this is what we call a layer mask. And notice when I have it clicked, there's a little dotted line around it to say I have activated that layer mask. With that layer mask, what I can do is I can come to the toolbox over here on the left. I can grab a paintbrush. I want to make sure that I'm on black and white here in my color picker on the bottom of my toolbox. There's a default color picker here and a little arrow here that'll flip it between black and white. I want the black is black, the white is white. So I'm going to go black. Click OK if you click on it. I have a brush here. Up here in my options, I can choose how big my brush is going to be. And I can choose whether I want a fuzzy brush or a hard edge brush. A hard edge brush is going to give you a clean line, like the side of this bridge. That's a hard edge brush. If I want a fuzzy brush, I turn the hardness down and I get a very soft feathered line, like the edge of this reflection. That would be a soft fuzzy brush. So I'm going to go soft fuzzy, just because I want a blended off edge. Notice you've got hard and soft fuzzy brush here as your defaults to choose from. So from here, when I paint, remember I said I did not want this effect up here in this area. So as I paint, I'm painting black. It's not really showing but look over here in my layers. I am painting a black mask over here that says, hey, I like all this, but don't put it here. Block it from hitting my photo. So I can come around here. Ooh, I want to brighten that part back up. And so as I'm adding black here, it is going through and masking off that effect from this area. So maybe I want to brighten that back up. Okay. So that is one way of adding the mask to it. Here's another adjustment layer. This one right here, we don't use it too often in photography, but this is hue saturation. When I do this, I can change the color scheme or the color filter over everything, and it's going to blend in with the other colors. So say I do this and I get it where maybe I want the trees up top to be, ooh, that kind of purpley blue is cool. Well, no, I liked the pink. Okay, so I get it to about there, but I liked the bottom, so that was a different color. So again, click on the mask in your layers panel. I just have the paintbrush. I can go through here and I can paint in to get this area to be yellow again. Another technique I can use is instead of the paintbrush, I can use this tool here, which is the gradient tool. And the gradient tool and the paint bucket, they share the same spot on the toolbox, but I want the gradient tool. It's going to blend from one color to the other. Again, make sure you've got black and white here. Your gradient tool up here should be on the foreground to background, like the very first one. And right now I'm just going to stick with uh, a linear gradient. How this works, I click my mouse, I drag, and what's going to happen is if you look over here, it's going to start with black and then it's going to blend out to gray and then to white. Excuse me, to white. So this is one way to softly do one side of your image and not the other side. We do this with a lot of lighting techniques when we're trying to fix the way the light is shining on something. So we're going to use it in abstract. So I can use a paintbrush on the black to give me a certain shape. I can use the gradient tool to give me a certain blend of black on my mask, which is going to allow me to only do something to part of my screen. One other way of doing this is kind of the flip side, the backwards. I don't want to say backwards. Maybe it's the forwards way. I can go and use these selection tools. Okay, it's the second tool in my toolbox. I could maybe select the ellipse or circle selection tool. I can draw a circle. Maybe I'll circle this area here that I kind of like. Notice it's going to get these little dancing ants around it. So if I have something selected on my image and then go to my adjustment layers. So then if I come in here and choose something like hue saturation, or let me just show you invert. Invert's kind of cool. It's going to flip the colors to their opposite. Notice what it did is it only added that invert adjustment layer to the area of the image I had selected. So if I was to draw another circle here, just maybe I just want to get some dots in there, draw that circle, invert that. I could come over here, I could draw another circle. If I hold shift, I can do multiple circles at a time. Shift is a way of mostly, it allows us to say, give me this and this and this and this. And so once I have all of these selected, if I click invert, if you notice, it's going to add all of those spaces to that invert filter. Okay. Notice that was a very hard edge selection. If I wanted to soften any of those edges, I could go grab my paintbrush, make sure it's a fuzzy brush, and notice I want to make sure I'm on the layer mask. I could go around the edge here. It's a little much. I'll make it smaller. The bracket keys on your keyboard, if you notice right above the return key, there are open brackets and close brackets. They are the shortcut for making your brush bigger and smaller, but I could go around the edge of this and tone down. I could even make it into a teardrop if I really wanted to pay attention that much to it. And then that's me painting on here. Be wary if you happen to be not clicked on the mask and you go with a paintbrush and you start clicking, it's going to say, oops, you can't click there. It's not editable. Okay. If you happen to be on the gradient tool and you go and you try to add a gradient on an adjustment layer, it's not going to let you. Okay. You have to be on the mask to get these effects going on. Okay. Invert and the gradient tool kind of gives a weird gray line, but if that's what you like, that's what you like. Edit undo is your best friend. So edit undo or command Z or control Z will allow you to step backwards and say, hey, let's go back. I don't like that. I could even go up here. So I want to abstract this more. I'm still feeling a lot of tree and bridge here, but I did like this kind of texture pattern here. But if I go to image, I'm going to go down to transform and I'm going to flip this image horizontally. Or, oh, sorry, I want to flip it vertically up and down. It's going to take the whole image, flip it upside down, and now I can really focus in on this area up here. Okay. This is kind of how I got this image going on here. I think that's what I showed you. Oh, I used photo filter a little bit. So photo filter just kind of gives it a, where's photo filter? If you hover over the adjustments, it tells you what it is. Here's photo filter. Photo filter I use to sometimes like warm up um, skin tones, but it just kind of goes and puts either a nice warming filter over everything, or you can change the color, a nice cooling filter over everything. It's kind of a lot like hue saturation. But again, if I'm going to add the photo filter, maybe I don't want it on every part of this. Although it does look kind of cool. I'm going to add a gradient. I'm going to bring this top piece back. And I'm going to add maybe another photo filter down here and add another gradient down here. Maybe I'll change this one. Oh, that one's orange. The other one's blue. So again, switching things up, changing things around. Remember, if you do something you don't like as well, like I don't really like those dots, I can always go and turn the eyeball off here and turn off that spot of it and decide whether I like what I'm doing. I kind of want to straighten this up or twist this around. I'm going to go to crop, and I am going to actually shrink this down. I kind of want that line to be straight on there. So if I think this will straighten it when I crop it like it does in Photoshop. I hope it doesn't keep it crooked. There we go. Yep. So it'll straighten it and crop it up. So I might, oh, if you ever get into crop and you're like, oh no, just click enter and then edit, step backwards, it'll come back. So when you're done with your photo, or you want to just save it for a little bit and come back, you're always going to go Command S. It's going to save it as a JPEG, which is not really the best thing to do. So I'm going to cancel out of that, and I'm going to go to File, Save as PSD. When I save it as a PSD, that's a Photoshop file. It's going to see all of my edits. It's going to keep my layers. So I do want to save it as a PSD. And then I'm going to click save. I like to keep my finished products in documents. So it's going to save my PSD. When I'm ready to turn this in, I am going to go export. I'm going to export the PNG, portable network graphic. So when I want to give my deliverable to my client, or I want to turn the image in, it's going to squish all my layers together. It's not going to be editable again, but it is in the format that I can post. It's going to tell me I like a nice 100% quality. If I need to make it smaller, I could. More than likely, I don't, because I want it to print well. And I'm going to click save. Again, I like to keep my PNGs and my PSDs in documents away from my downloads. And there we have it. In the current assignment, I'm asking you to do this multiple times so you get in the practice of adding masks. Please do not stop down here with just an all over abstract mask over everything. I want to see certain areas of your photo manipulated differently than the others, because that's one of the goals of this assignment. All right. Let me know if you have any questions, and enjoy abstracting your reality.